evening, everyone. Today is April 7th, and the time is 6:36 p.m., and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first item on our agenda is to do some clerical adjustments for the statement of interest. I have some wording here to read, and then we'll make sure we have a correct motion so we can submit this. Having convened in an open meeting on April 7th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Granby Select Board of Granby, Mass., in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 31st, 2025, for the Granby Junior Senior High School located at 387 East State Street, Granby, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems, such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment for the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Granby Public School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Can I have a motion?
Yes, you can. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. So I'll sign this and hand it to Ginny. Okay. All right. Next is finalist number 1, interview with, I've heard it's Joni, Dr. Joni Menard. Okay. So I think Todd went to go and get her. So we have in our packets the questions, which will give her 5 minutes to look over when she first comes in. And then we have our 2 rubrics that states who's asking which question. And we also have their applications and everything for reference for us. Any questions before we start?
Just a comment. Thank you for all the preparation and printouts. And I know that was a lot of administrative work, so it doesn't go unnoticed to the team.
Yeah, thank you, Ginny.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, John. How
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you here.
Hi. Nice to meet you too. Absolutely.
So we have a list of questions
Okay,
there for
perfect.
you, and we'll give you a few minutes to look them over, and then we'll begin.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Are you ready?
sure.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and make an opening statement?
Wonderful. First of all, thank you very much. I truly appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. I just wanted to briefly tell you a little bit about myself. I'm finishing my 22nd year in public education in Massachusetts. I entered the educational world as I was older. I came from the business world as a sales manager in BFI and waste management. That brings a unique skill set to the table here. Not only did I have to manage budgets, but manage a crew of team. And also, everything I did was based on building relationships and selling. I think in today's world, a superintendent needs to market a school district and sell it to the community. I knew that I wanted to become a superintendent. My parents are both in education. My dad was an assistant superintendent in Ohio for a county. It's a little bit different system than here. Kind of grew up knowing it, but I also knew if I wanted to become a superintendent, I needed a unique set of skills. So I wanted to do that intentionally. So I taught for 11 years in public schools. I taught both content areas, science, ELA, and math. I also taught unified arts, so I can really see both sides of the teaching. Unified arts teachers or specialists have very different needs than content area teachers. So I know both sides. I had a very unusual experience. I taught in South Korea when it was still a third world country. I'm just flipping this, it's bugging me. I got paid more because I had blue eyes, believe it or not. So it was a kind of unique experience. But I've also taught for 4 years at French River Collaborative, which is an adjunct professor for Worcester State. I taught teachers hands-on STEM classes as well as SPED classes. So I'm used to teaching teachers also. From teaching, I was also a union rep when I taught. I was also on union negotiations on the teacher side. I went to mediation 2 times in Spencer Brookfield, a very big learning experience. I went from teaching and I went into teacher leadership, where I became a team chair, department head, and then also went to Medway to become a STEM curriculum specialist and coach. And there was really in between. I had non-administrative experience there, but really built standards-based report cards, which hadn't existed before in the middle school, ran a lot of hands-on events for families in the community, which drew about 500 people. So did a lot of really nice hands-on things there. From there, I went and became an elementary school principal in Petersham. For those of you guys who don't know, Petersham is its own district. So I'm very comfortable with small school districts. You can't get much smaller than that. 125 students, 1 class per grade. Has its own unique challenges. I had no assistant. I had no data specialist. It was me, myself, and I. So I'm very used to doing DESE reports, doing all the discipline, all of those ends. I was there 4 years. One thing as a team, I definitely am a collaborative leader. And as a team, we realized that our literacy scores needed to rise. Together, we knew as a community that we wanted to protect our 5 specials for every single student, which was STEM, PE, art, music, and performing arts, which included meditation. So we knew we wanted to protect that. Everybody got together and we created a fluid K-2 literacy block. We were able to greatly raise our scores. We went from the 25th percentile to the 48th percentile in MCAS. Big on safety, worked very closely with the police chief there, did reunification drills, a lot of other things that had not existed before. From there, I went on to Gil Montague, right down the road. I'm a secondary principal for 2 years. For those of you who don't know, I was a principal for 6 through 12, treated though 2 different schools, 2 very different staffs other than some shared staff, had very different needs. And you guys know it's in Pioneer Valley, very comfortable with that. During the time I was there was the first year I was able to, with a team, write a successful Innovation Pathways grants for healthcare and social assistance. My second year, advanced manufacturing, which is a really big deal for Gil Montague. A lot of students didn't go on and go on to college or anything. So it's a really big deal. I started culture and climate clubs there. When I was hired, there was a substantial need for marginalized groups' needs not being addressed. I kind of dug in with the staff and said, I'm really confused because you guys are very caring staff, like what's going on? They had never been trained to deal with bias in the classroom. So we partnered with a collaborative out of Northampton, did a lot of digging and a lot of training, went up and told the students in front of whole school meetings that we need to address those needs. The staff has been trained. We are going to address it in the moment. If you feel that it's not done, please come and talk to us. I had bi-monthly culture and climate clubs, went up substantially. From there, in both schools, I've always been a part of the district, and that's what I would do in Granby. In Petersham, I was part of festivals on the Common and the Duck Tank. I kicked pigs for literacy scores. I got duct taped to the walls. So I want to do those fun things. It's a home away for home for the students and the staff, and I know that, and I need to make it fun. In my role now, I've been there 4 years. It's a smaller school district. I'm in charge of all the curriculum, the audits, the reviews, curriculum mapping, PD. We tie it directly to our strategic plan. Everything's documented on our agendas, how it's directly tied. I have done learning walks, data analysis, very comfortable, run the mentoring program, new teacher induction, Innovation Pathways again. We just got the grant for Holliston, so working on that again. Evaluation system, vision of a graduate. I've done a lot of work. I know you're doing work there. Standards-based report cards, really tying it to social emotional needs of the student. Working on PD on our Tier 1 instruction and Tier 2 instruction. Improving our safety. I'm also very involved with the school committee for budget and policy subcommittee. I really feel that by being a principal at all levels, I know the social, emotional, and behavioral needs and academic needs of all levels, very comfortable with that. I think it's very important to bring that while I'm working with principals because I've lived their lives. I know what they need. But my background in marketing and fundraising can also lend a lot here just because of the very uncertain times we kind of live in. And I think that all my skill set would be a wonderful melding of everything together. I was talking to some people earlier at one of the informational groups or elementary, and we were talking about my dissertation was partnering with colleges and businesses to provide PD for public secondary schools. And I really am very comfortable with thinking outside the box and approaching people to help the schools. I also feel that it's my job as superintendent to get out in the community and sell the schools during all times and going out and speaking at Lions Club meetings or wherever you guys feels appropriate. Gil Montague, I went inside the community because there were a lot of people that did not have transportation. So I went to downtown and went to them. So those are just a few things, and I think I will touch upon some of my other skill set as we go along.
Excellent. So we're going to go down the line and ask questions, and we have 5 minutes for response for each one. We have someone keeping time.
Okay.
First question. What does strong school-based leadership mean to you as an administrative issue and learning strategy? What is the proper balance between school-based management, central office supervision, and school committee policy making and oversight?
You got a lot in there, but let me try to pull it apart.
Sure thing.
So I think it's really important to build a strong leadership team. And how do you do that? I think that you need to have time to learn each other's styles. I think a leader as a principal or a superintendent, my job is to empower others, empower them, find their passions, try to get the barriers out of their way or get them the correct materials or find them the right resources or connect them to the right person and help them there. I think that leadership is a collaborative effort. I think that, a superintendent in no way, shape, or form should not be top-down management. It should be collaborative leadership. Let me kind of qualify that though, but I'm not afraid to make the tough decisions. One thing I was saying earlier today that I think when things are tough and even when they're not, I need to remember that I need to go to the boots on the ground and I need to find what's working and what's not. And part of what I would do, and I'm just going to pass this out to you guys, I made a entry plan. And so part of the entry plan is talking to you, talking to school leadership, talking to the community, talking to teachers. I have extra copies if you want any. And it's really identifying what people view as Granby's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I would do in this case, I would take the strategic plan and go through the 4 strategic initiatives and objectives and ask the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for each. And that would define my work that I would do when I first start off in Granby. The first part of it in building that leadership team is listening. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, and it's hard to imagine me listening, but it would be listening to figure out what the needs are. It's not what Joni thinks the needs are, it's what Granby's needs are. And that's defined by the school committee, staff, leadership team, all of that. I think that, to go back to your question, that learning strategy, I think that administration should empower teacher leaders. We should grow our own, so to speak. I think that there is a balance between school-based management, central office supervision, and school committee policy making and oversight. I have been blessed that I've been able to be in policy subcommittee the whole time I've been in Holliston. And I realize the power that school committees' policies can have to support teachers and administrators. And let me give you an example. So I'm in charge of all curriculum, and one thing that some of our staff were struggling with is the new wellness standards, and some of the teachers were uncomfortable with some of the puberty standards. And so the school committee, I brought that to the school committee and said it would be really appreciated by the teachers if we had some kind of policy that we support, all the groups in the learning and support the standards, and we were able to do that. And that gives the teachers more teeth and they're more comfortable when they have to address the standards. So I think that, I think it's a wonderful thing when teachers share their needs, leaders share their needs, and we can all partner together with the school committee to create policies that back them up, that support them, that support student learning, support the learning for all students. I think that we have done a big book study this year, our leadership style. We're reading a book by Stephen Covey called Trust and Inspire, and we had to define our leadership style. And I defined mine as, we had to do all these little tests, transformative leader. And it really is defining, looking at that big picture and empowering others and providing them the resources in order for them to do their job. I think I would like to be, a sounding board to them. We discuss it. I would know big picture. I think it's very important that the staff informs me of possible hiccups, so to speak, and I inform you. I look at potentially having a memo to you every week of just bullets of things that have happened to keep you abreast. Of course, if something happens that's of the essence, I would text you and let you know. Nothing's worse than anybody being caught not knowing what's going on. It's really easy to defend people if I know what's going on or if you guys know what's going on. It's really hard to cover for somebody if you don't know what's going on. So I just ask them as a leadership team to keep me informed.
Excellent.
Janice, is there time for a quick follow-up?
I don't know where our time.
Oh, I can wait till the end. I'll
We're at 5. We're gonna go. You can at the
save
end,
it.
okay?
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. Let you grab a drink and relax for a second. I know it's tough to talk
You're good.
continuously.
Go ahead.
All right. Tell us about your experience working in the curriculum area that may include identifying a need to revise curriculum, implementing a new curriculum, or assessing the curricula that are already in place. What did you learn from these experiences, and how would you use what you have learned?
Sure. So I'm lucky enough that I oversee all the district curriculum, and we rewrote the district curriculum review process. And in that is posted online that you can see on our website, but it's making a K through 12 district team that's comprised of teachers, of gen ed teachers, of special ed teachers, of multi-language learner teachers, administrators, and district leaders. And all those people are coming together, and we really utilize DESE has an implement guide. They call it implement guide. I've been part of that process, I think, since 2021. I'd have to look at my resume. And in that process, we go to monthly meetings, and we are able to tap into the whole state of what people have done through their curriculum review processes. What have they found to be successes and what they have found to be detrimental to the process. We use that in Holliston to guide our process. I have curriculum. I'm lucky enough. I didn't have in Medway people underneath me, and I did the curriculum reviews. In Holliston, I do have curriculum people underneath me, and we meet and plan all those meetings. It really is making sure that we are hearing that K through 12 voice. The only caveat that I say, because DESE is telling us that we need to implement curate rated or Ed Reports rated curriculum. So that is our mandate when we are looking at resources. That's what we need to look at. We just went through last year we finished up a 2-year math review cycle, which had not been done, depending on who you ask, 17 years or 21 years, I don't know which. But anyways, it was the first time that we were able to come together and figure out a K through 5 curriculum, Eureka Math Squared, and a 6 through 12 curricular resource reveal. So now from that review, that team makes recommendations on what professional development they need, what resources they need, and it's my job to follow up on those. All along the way, those are communicated to the families through school committee meetings. Our final report recommendation goes to the superintendent, who then brings it to the school committee, who approves the funds or not. I've had to go forward and request capital funds for curricular resources that I brought forward, so I'm very comfortable doing that. It's really interesting. Since I've been there, we have done, when I first got there, there was a wellness review that was done from an outside vendor. So we followed up on that. But since I've been there, we've done a world language review. We've done a math review. We've done an ELA review at the secondary level. We're currently in an ELA at the elementary school level. We slowed it down because we figured out, we got feedback that the capacity to implement new curricular resource for math is just too much, like altogether. So we had to slow down our roles. So we have learned that, and we've heard the teachers. Let's see here. Going through US, also assessing the curriculums already in place. During that curriculum review process, part of it is doing gap analysis. So it's looking at all the data we have, MCAS data. We have a data dashboard called Open Architects that we looked at, and we're able to identify big gaps that we had. We also literally drew out all the standards and made sure, what grade was covering them. Are we addressing them? Went through there, figured out gaps. So all along the way, that team is identifying ways that we need to improve and making changes and picking out resources as we go. That work has defined our professional development. We're working with a group outside of Vermont called All Learners Network, is pushing us to think algebraic thinking, even down at the kindergarten level, and building that all the way up. But we're also getting specific resource training from Reveal and Eureka Math Squared. At the same time, another way we're judging it is that we have iReady for the elementary schools for benchmark testing and tier 2 instruction, and iExcel for the secondary schools. So we're able to progress monitor, and we have interventions at the same time. We're using that to group students according to standards and correct standards misunderstanding as we go. So that's on top of the curricular reviews.
Wonderful. I think you took care of the follow-up question. So that concludes this question.
But if I can add something, which I forgot to do. So our community has asked us to be more transparent with what we're teaching and when we're teaching it. So if you look online, we have developed Understanding by Design templates that are posted online, and it's all our stage 1 curriculum that's taught. So it talks about standards, essential questions, the goals, the transfer tasks. So we're really looking at designing curriculum in a backwards way, and what do they need to know? That is that standard. And then how are they going to show they master it? And we're really looking at student engagement strategies in order to achieve that.
Oh, I'm next.
Mhm.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Liz LaFond, the newest member of this hardworking team. Nice to meet you.
I have been watching you guys, so I know. Welcome.
Thank you. Same to you. Given the stress in the lives of young people today and the social, academic, and even financial pressures they face, how can educators in general, and the superintendent in particular, have an impact on the emotional well-being of students?
So I think as a superintendent, you're responsible for looking at the academic, the behavioral, and the social emotional needs. And we need to meet all of those. And we need to do that in different ways depending on the levels, because developmentally it's different for every child. Let me give you an example. So we've done a lot of training on CASEL's competencies and the social emotional strategies, and you can do that through different programs. We have a care program. When I was at Peterson, we did responsive classroom. When I was at Gil Montague, we had restorative justice and PBIS type things. But it really is embedding it every day in your curriculum. The new wellness standards have done an incredible job for this state in embedding social emotional standards in there. So they're approachable at all levels. I see, just like every district that I've been in, you have the expectations, the posters all around, right? I think it's our responsibility to communicate to students what the expectations are, right? And I think it's better to have their peers show what the expectations are. Let me explain that. Even in Petersham, the young ones, they used to act out what it meant, how to walk in the hallway, what it meant, how to behave in the cafeteria. And we video recorded that, and they shared it with their with their peers. Another thing, I think it's our responsibility as a school district to communicate to parents where their our guardians, where their child is. I'm really excited in Holliston right now. I'm working with a team of elementary school teachers and administrators in building a new standards-based report cards. The one we had truly was not standards-based, and it was kind of not unified. I'll just say that. We have built on CASEL's social emotional competencies, we have built a progression from K through 5th grade on what is age appropriate behavior and what the expectations are. Those are going to be on our report cards. We are going to build a landing page for parents and having forums for parents about what these expectations are. It's all about building the culture of the school. School is where a student is more than they are pretty much in waking hours. We need to make it inviting. We need to make sure they're physically safe, they're emotionally safe, and they're academically safe. We need to make it that we do a lot of training with teachers. We've done a lot with DESE's, MTSS academies on culturally responsive teaching and making sure that every student feels welcome. What does that look like? We use it when we do our walkthroughs, and we're looking for things. Is it a safe and supportive environment? How do we know that? We're seeing some of those culturally responsive look-fors within the classroom. So I think it's a lot of different things. I think it's training staff. I think it's training the community. But most of all, it's showing that we as a school district want to support the whole child, and we're going to do that in so many different ways and kind of educating people about what that looks like. I think it's my responsibility as a superintendent to get out there and spread the word. I think it's through superintendent roundtables that people come into the school district. It's me walking around classrooms. It's me I just went to the softball game out here in between tonight. I think it's very important that I'm physically seen in the community. I carry around a notebook. I know I'm old school. People come up and talk to me, and I write ideas about what their thoughts are and what improvements we could make. So I always want to get feedback. Can always be better no matter what you're doing. Unfortunately, I think the world has changed since COVID, and I've been in education before and after, and the mental health needs, the supports that we need to do, we really need to look at a lot of different things in order to help them. I think it involves partnering with a lot of different groups outside of school, such as like in Holliston, we partner with mental health organizations. We partner with counseling groups outside. We do Sandy Hook Sandy Hook is.
Sandy Hook Promise.
Thank you. Thank you. Too many phrases here, too many acronyms. We also are doing Say Something. Help me out here. Is it Say Something for the older students? I think so. Say Something. So we know.
See something.
See something, say something. Yes. So we're, so doing a lot of different strategies and getting a lot of speakers to come in and know that. We've done a lot of training on that. We also in Holliston have developed something that is called, I'm trying to remember the name of it. We landed on. We worked with the fire chief and police. I'm on the safety committee, and we came up with a handle with care. So, there are confidential information about students that we can't share, but we can share, hey, this student is struggling, be on the lookout, use kid glove type things. And that's what, so we're trying to look at every avenue that we can in order to help and support students.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. What do you perceive as a superintendent's role in the community, which you did address a little previously?
I think it's a lot of different things. I think it's to support you and information that you are looking for. I definitely know my role, as a superintendent. In negotiations, I know that I'm there to give you advice or support or whatever you're asking me to do. It's not me speaking during the negotiations. I fully understand that. It's to me also to give you advice on different policies or different things we need, go to you for support and keep you in the loop about curricular needs that we have. I think it's different needs for different groups. It's for the leadership team to really enable them to be the leaders of their building. So it's empower them, make sure that I am giving them the supports they need. I'm going to bat for them. I'm fighting the good fight. For staff, I'm doing the same thing. For the community, it's going out, and it doesn't matter if it's a bad budget year or good budget year, although I don't know if good budget years are going to exist ever again in Massachusetts, but it's going out in the community and really selling the schools to the community. What do I mean by that? So in every community, there's a lot of empty nesters who have no interactions with the school district. So it's really selling and marketing what's going on here. How do I do that? I go out to meetings, I publicly speak. How do I do that? I publish newsletters that I hope maybe we could put on the website as well as the town website. It's really getting out there in the community. It's being at plays, it's being at sporting events, it's listening to people's concerns. It's going around in my entry plan and meeting with the different groups, meeting with the select board, meeting with police, meeting with fire, meeting with the principals one-on-one, and really getting the feel. I think it's also me advocating for our needs out in the state. So I'm a big proponent. Since I have been assistant principal, and when I was principal, I was also on the state level, very involved. When I was principal, I was the ed policy chair for the Massachusetts School Administrators Association for 6 years, that we wrote policy papers trying to really get the word out there what the educational needs are. Now, as assistant superintendent, I work, my superintendent is the co-president of the Tri-County Superintendent's Roundtable. I go to every meeting, but we work with our legislators and legislators and make sure that they know exactly what's going on. I think, there's a big disconnect sometimes, nothing against any legislator, but hearing what they're talking about, but directly how it impacts their local schools and what their needs are. Really advocating for that. It's also going out to the state and bringing back expertise and knowledge that we can use in Granby and sharing that. It's not me owning the knowledge. It's me coming back and sharing it with appropriate people to empower them to use it. I think it's so many different things. I think it's a 24-hour job. I'm used to that schedule. Last week, I'll give you an example. We had a school committee meeting, and I'm not suggesting you do this, until 11:30 at night. Had a meeting the next morning. I had to be present for it for 7:30 in the morning that we had some visitors coming in. That's the reality of the job. I fully know that. I'm an empty nester. I'm in a wonderful stage of my life. I purposely did not become a principal or higher until my kids were older. When I became a principal, our youngest was in college. And then I knew I can give my all to it. My husband owns 2 businesses. He is plenty busy with his job, or I'm busy with my job. He's a peach though, because he comes along on date nights and goes to sporting events with me and musicals and all that. So you would see him there too. But I knew what my expectations are of a superintendent, and I knew I could not do that until I was at this stage in my life. So I would really go back to all of you, teachers, community members, and school committee members. What are your expectations? Every community that I've been in has had different needs, right? No community is the same. It should be your expectation that I'm at all the events. It should be your expectation that I'm at town events. It should be your expectation that I'm at select board meetings that you need me there. That should be the expectation. That is the expectation of myself.
How you doing? Okay?
I am good.
Okay. How have you built lines of communication with the various district stakeholders, such as your leadership team, the faculty, community leaders, business interests, and families? As part of your response, would you talk about how you would build a line of communication to the municipal leadership?
Okay. So let me kind of break it down. So I'm just going to go in order here. For leadership team, when I was principal, I found out there's so many hours in a day and you can't make the day longer, but you can use it more effectively. So the staff was asking me, we really need professional development, or, hey, we really need to collaboratively problem solve this. When can we do it? And I said, how about if I put all the nuts and bolts in a weekly newsletter to all of you, if you promise to read it, and I'm telling you, if you tell me what is that, I'm going to say it's in the newsletter. We use that time to work on all these things that we have identified as a staff. So both places I was principal, that's how we ran the faculty meetings. So we found time. Okay, so they kept their end, I kept my end, I kept them informed about the nuts and bolts. So we weren't talking about, things. There are one-offs like MCAS you can't do through a nuts and bolts program. You have to do actual training, right? So there are certain things you cannot do that way, but we found a lot of time. We were able to do professional development that way. The faculty, in both places I was principal, and now not as much, but I do some more newsletters. It's a platform to use that you can embed pictures and videos. When I was principal and I sent out a bi-monthly community newsletter, which had tons of pictures and videos in. People loved it. It went to the whole community, and both towns were able to post it on their town website so everybody could access it. It went really well. Businesses did also. So as far as families, I sent it out on our listservs. Okay, so business and families, I did both things. So I went out into communities, groups that asked me to speak, such as Lions Clubs or something like that. But I also asked to go and speak in businesses. I've done a lot with going out, and this is where my sales comes in handy, convincing different businesses to support our schools either financially, intellectually, meaning with their knowledge that they have to share. This is my whole dissertation, my doctoral dissertation, and also sharing resources that they might have. So it's really looking at going out into the community and convincing people that it takes a community to do a good job of educating students, and we need everybody's help. Let me give you some other examples. I was able to, at Gilmontague, I was able to bring in we brought innovation pathways in. And there were a lot of students that didn't know all the possibilities of different jobs. And so their family situations or who they were living in, they really didn't have exposure to those jobs. So I brought in a lot of families in, like the community members, and spoke to their jobs to see if those students were interested in that. I kind of modeled it off another school district doing that. So pulling people in. Gilmontague, we had a job fair. And in Turner's Falls, there's a lot of people that started their own business. And there was one guy really big in NASCAR racing, and they brought in information. So for our juniors and seniors to go around and practice and ask questions and kind of interview with them, it's kind of bringing the whole community in. Line of communication to municipal leadership. I would start with the entry plan, but then I would ask if we could meet on a regular basis. That's what I've done in every single district I've been in, right? That's the way to build a relationship with them, is to partner with them. What are they looking to do? How can I help them? How can the school get on board? Petersham, Gilmontague, and Holliston, we were able to move a ton of safety work forward with the partnerships with the school districts, right? It's critically, sadly important in today's world to partner together and to always improve on that. So I think that it's starting off introducing myself, ask when we can meet. I would do the SWOT analysis with them also, asking them what they view Granby's school district's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then you're going to see a theme I have every place I've worked, and kind of prioritize those and ask those partners to work together to achieve those goals.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ready, go ahead.
Okay.
Just wetting my mouth every once in a while.
What experience have you had implementing reorganizations or change in organization? How did you do this? What were the challenges and regrets?
I apologize to all of you because this is like my fourth interview. I did not tell you about the literacy block at Petersham, correct?
The fluid literacy block, you
did.
mentioned that in your opening statement.
Okay, so I gave you that example. Okay, let me think of another example. That is one example, right? Because we knew we needed to change, right? Okay, let me give you another example. In Petersham, which is a very small district that I told you about, we knew that we needed to do a lot of safety improvements. So that was partnering very closely with Chief Cooley. We were really, really lucky when I was in Petersham. Chief Cooley would be there every day at the elementary school greeting the students. So it was this really shared responsibility, very dynamic relationship that the students got to know him on a very personal basis in a non-threatening way, right? He knew all their names, knew everything going on. So we really worked closely together to make some changes there. Challenges were financial, really kind of thinking outside the box to get funding to do some things such as bulletproof glass and things like that. Regrets, I had no regrets doing that. I think that, let me give you another example. In Holliston, when I first started, my first year, I had, as you know, in small school districts, I'm very used to this, you have to wear many hats underneath your roles. And I had no curriculum people underneath me. We have about 2,700 students, and we knew that we needed to do a much better job in aligning our curriculum, doing curriculum reviews, doing student engagement, really kind of making sure that our students owned and mastered the standards. And so my first year, I had no staff underneath me for that. My second year, we made a structure where I had 3 people underneath me. I had one district unified arts person, one district STEM person, and one district humanities person. We really found it's very hard to work across 4 buildings and keep that all together. So we shifted for this school year. We were lucky enough to be able to restructure that. We had interventionists in our schools, but we have building-based people now, and I have one district unified arts person. So we have a STEM and the humanities person in each one. We have found that to be much more successful than our old model. They're able to meet more frequently with teachers. They're able to coach teachers now. They're able to advise them on the curriculum mapping. They were not doing interventions for students before. Now they're doing tier 2 interventions. So it's a lot of different things, but there were different iterations that we found that we thought would work, and then we found this really isn't the best fit for Holliston. So we had to rethink what we were doing and kind of reallocate how we were putting our dollars and how effective we were, because this is a much more effective model than what we had before.
Sorry about that. So, please describe a decision you made that in retrospect you wish you had made differently. I mean, you can see all those bullets underneath. How did you come to understand that the decision needed another look? What process did you follow and why? What would you do differently and why? And what did you learn from the experience?
Let me give you, let's see. I'm trying to think of what I have not told you about. I told you about Gil Montague and the PD we needed to do. I think that Peter Sam, a lot of the community was very vocal about their wants. And if you don't know, it's a very a community focused on nature, and Peter Sam Forest is centered there. I mean, Harvard Forest, excuse me. Harvard Forest is centered there, so a lot on nature. And people were asking us for a STEM focused program, which is right up my alley. That's my jam, and that's what I taught. So when we first were looking at that, we thought it was going to be an after school program that was going to have to be funded by parents. I quickly realized that that was going to fall flat, and I knew I needed to regroup and figure out something to do differently. I was able to move around my budget a little bit. I was able to get people to donate their services or volunteering. I taught a lot of the classes. We got very creative. We asked for material donations because it was all hands-on. So I knew just from the feedback I was getting from the community, I needed to do it differently. I wanted to ask them, my idea of what they wanted and their idea of what they wanted were 2 very different things. So I knew I specifically had to ask them, what are you looking for? Because we had a STEM class for every K through 6th grade student every week, but I didn't know exactly what they were looking for. So that was my first time being a principal. I would have asked a heck of a lot sooner than what I did because that was a lot more work on myself, right? I learn very quickly, especially when it's your time, right? What did I do about it? Because I knew it wasn't going to meet their needs, and I knew that I needed to provide that after-school care and that after-school curricular engagement for the students. Going forward, just like the entry plan, I go in and ask questions before I develop something like that now. I do kind of like a mini version of an entry plan now. If it's a big initiative, if it's a big change, I go that route now, and I save myself so many problems. And we get to the result a lot quicker. I'm delivering on what people want. People are happier all the way around. But I did learn from that first time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How would you work with local municipal officials to generate support and trust for the schools?
I think I've touched upon a few things, right? But I would start by doing the entry plan with them. I would ask them how often they would like to meet. I would tell them I think it's really important that all of us are showing a unified front in Granby. So I think in order to do that, everybody needs to know that they're on the same page. And the only way you can do that is meet and have honest conversations. I think that I want to make sure that they understand that every decision that I'm going to make is based on what is most effective for the students and the Granby community. And I need to hear from them that input also, as well as your input. But I think it's meeting regularly. It's building trust by being transparent in communication, but then following through on what I say I'm going to do, right? Nothing's worse than, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then it never gets done. They're not going to believe me at all. I think it's, going out with them for coffee and just to chat and just having honest conversations, as well as all of you, what you're looking for. I think once everybody's on the same page and we know what is best for Granby, as we all know, in Holliston, we have a substantial budget, and it's 3/4 of our budget is for the salaries, but it's the bulk of the town. But, districts need to realize, that we are impacting town services, right? So we need to partner together. A school district cannot decimate the fire department or the police department. I mean, we need to partner together to figure it out. And what does that look like? What are Granby's needs? I would want to go to the experts, meaning the select board chair, meaning the police, meaning the fire. What do they need? What do we need? Everybody puts it on the table and kind of tries to figure it out. I think, that as long as everybody knows that everybody's there for the right reasons, and we can agree to disagree as long as it's respectful, I'm all in, and they will quickly see that I'm all in and I want to do what's best for Granby.
Well, the next question about remaining.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Before we about attendance remaining for the interview.
So we have two questions,
Okay.
in only 10 minutes.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry. That fan is going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tell me about a meeting in which you had to tell others something they did not want to hear. How did you communicate those ideas to them? What was the result of the communication? If you could do it again, is there anything that you would change in the way you communicated or the way in which you communicated it, and why?
So we have very specific union agreements. I'm on the monthly meetings with the union. I was a union rep when I was in a teacher also, but some of them I'm in charge of all the evaluations, and there have been changes, as you all know, with DESE requirements for evaluations, and so those have changed what we need to do for evaluations. So I have had to be the person to communicate that. It's not because the superintendent or myself want to be a pain in their side. DESE has made changes, right? And they take it like that, right? And so why? Like, where is that coming from? We're a public school district. We need to follow these mandates. These are what the mandates are. These are the changes that we need to make. These are how we're going to implement them. So it's really being forthcoming about the why, right? Nothing's worse than implementing something new if it's just to implement and people have no idea why. People are not going to get behind it. People are just going to get up in arms and it's not going to get done. So it's really about that transparent communication again. It would be done in, in this case, I went around to faculty meetings. Let me give you an example. My first year, we had a DESE audit on curriculum. And one of the findings was that we had opportunity for growth in student engagement. So I had to be the one to go deliver the news to all 4 schools in the faculty meetings that we need to change our student engagement practices. So how I started that was I had shared the DESE report with them prior to that, telling them this is not something that Holliston did wrong. This is a regular reoccurring DESE audit, right? So nobody was in trouble, but these were their findings. So we were very transparent with the findings. And then we kind of talked about, and we brainstormed together at each level. So we have 4 schools about what that's going to look like. That has evolved into, from those conversations, has evolved to having learning walks at the district level, having learning walks at the building level, and now the building principals are starting to have learning walks with their administrative team and curriculum coaches in the teacher's classroom, with the end goal being that, like I was in Petersham, when teachers get to go in other teachers' classrooms and observe, right? But I think that nobody wanted to hear all of the work and improvements that we needed to make, but it helps if you're telling them where that's coming from, fully being transparent. Everybody processes things differently, so arming them with information before I came to them so they could read it on their own, so they could have questions for me and I'd be able to answer them. So it's really kind of being thoughtful about laying out that process in order for people to digest it, intake it, and come up with awesome questions that we can brainstorm together.
Excellent.
Last question. How would you describe your leadership style, and what particular strengths do you believe you will bring to our school system?
So again, I told you already that, we had to take the quiz about what kind of leader we are, really. And I'm one that I've been lucky enough in my career, in my life, that people have kind of mentored me, and I've kind of found mentors along the way. But I think it's really a district leader's responsibility to empower others and give them the right resources so they can do their job. I have found that when you do that, they fly and do amazing things that you didn't even come up with. And I discovered that before I got into education, and I was volunteering, and I told you I have a different skill set, and this kind of goes to the question too, that I'm very comfortable doing fundraisers. I was the president of the Junior League of Worcester, and in 4 days, this is in the 1990s, we netted $75,000. Another event I did with my husband, we netted $34,000 in one night. So I'm really comfortable doing that, but those were all volunteers, and look at what they were able to do. So it was me getting out of their way, me listening to what they wanted to do, me hearing what their passions were, me capitalizing on their interests and their passions, and letting them fly. Let me give you another example. In Petersham, before I got there, I think the STEM teacher was teaching maybe, once a month to each grade. And I know the value in that and how excited she was. I'm like, no, let's work it in that you're doing it every week, and she was phenomenal at it. She was having students coding in kindergarten. But it's really empowering those people and tapping into their superpowers, letting them do what they're good at.
Ty, we have a couple minutes. Anything that you would like to say in closing? Any additional questions for us?
No, but I just wanted to point out, I think over the interview, and we've talked about it, I really looked at your strategic plan and, this is uncomfortable because I don't, like, I've always done things collaboratively and on a team, but I feel very strongly that I have a lot to offer you in all 4 areas of the strategic plan, and I'm very comfortable doing that. High quality instruction, I live that and eat that and breathe that every single day, and I've done it through all my roles. Supportive and safe learning environment, just so you know, I'm lucky enough on our leadership team. I have a student services director and a director of social emotional learning and equity. And the 3 of us have really partnered about what we need to do collectively for what's best for all students. We came to the conclusion with 30 other people that I ran that we're concentrating on tier 1 instruction, really strengthening that for all students and kind of looking at what we do, making sure that everybody's aware of DCAP, what they can do within the classroom, what services they can provide to students. Communication, collaboration, community engagement. I'm very comfortable going out. I talked about culture and climate clubs. I talked about superintendent's chats. I talked about going out in the meetings. I talked about partnering with schools and with the town leaders. And then finally, systems and structures, very comfortable with budgets, very, very comfortable doing that. I've been held accountable in Peter Sam. We did things the old-fashioned way. I had this huge book. I had 99 line items. I had to keep justification for each 99 line items and talk about that. That has forced me to become a really good person because I keep justification for all of my lines. I operate like they had me do it in Peter Sam, which has served me well because I can easily find what I'm looking for and defend why I've made those decisions. So please just think about the breadth of experience I provide. I've been a K through 12 administrator. I know the behavioral needs, the academic needs, the social emotional needs, and it's very different, as we know, for all levels. And the principals at all levels need different support because of the needs of the student. So I'm really comfortable doing that. And please consider my outside experience in business and fundraising and marketing. I think that really composes of what the duties of a superintendent are in this decade.
Do you have any questions for us?
I do not. So you are you're deliberating tonight, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And are you making a decision tonight then?
depending upon how deliberations go, but that is our ultimate goal.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We have a number to reach you if we do, so we can contact you either way.
Yes. Do you have it or
Why don't you just give it to me?
508
508
736
736
4381?
4381. Excellent.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I would be honored to represent the Granby Public Schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Check up all my stuff. Did you need any more copies of these?
I think we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. If you, don't mind telling her we're 3 months behind. Okay, great, yeah. I think we can have everyone can have a breather for a minute and we'll,
What time would you like me to bring Mary Jane?
can you give us 5?
Tell me.
I think,
It's a pleasure meeting each of you.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hi,
Mary Jane Rickson.
Jay, what are you doing here?
Fancy meeting you here. Are you warm? It
No,
must have been freezing. I was thinking about you.
it was freezing cold.
Day one, I checked with them before I came over.
Mm-hmm.
So they were, I was coming over and they were coming off the field running to their cars. So
I know it's not super professional, but I need to wear my coat because
I don't
I'm
blame you.
freezing.
It
I'm
is-
sorry.
you're gonna take all night to get that chill off for sure.
Okay. We'll let you look at the questions for a few minutes.
Okay, that'd be great. Well, Ooh, really like this one. Okay.
You good?
Yeah, I think
I'm gonna take, you got like 2 more minutes if you want to
I'll
look.
take the foot. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I just want to keep reading.
I hope you're gonna take some more time or just.
Oh, sure.
Just roll in my
Finish
mouth.
chewing, finish chewing.
That's embarrassing. Okay.
I heard some exciting news. Did you have a baby yet?
No, not yet.
All right. Gina told me this morning. I said, what?
It's happening. Just not fast enough.
I got panicked. Yeah. I panicked there for a minute.
And go ahead with your opening statement when you're ready.
Great. I want to thank you for having me today. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to be a candidate for superintendent, not only as someone who's had the privilege of serving in this role before, but somebody who really is committed to being part of the community. I was really excited to be given this position, and being part of the transition, I was really appreciative of the unique opportunity that was given to me. I appreciated the resilience, the dedication, and the determination that I saw from the staff this year. It had really been remarkable, and I was really glad to be part of that. I've had the opportunity to work with teachers, families, town officials, and work closely with many of the students. So I just want to say I witnessed a community that is deeply committed to ensuring that everybody's successful and doing right by its children. So I was glad to see that. Just want to know what drives me every day is the students. Every decision I make, whether it be facilities, curriculum, staffing, budgeting, I say, how is this going to impact the student? So I try to make sure that the decisions I make, and as a school committee, I know that is also your vision and your mission. So I just want to say that I'd like to continue working as that as my vision, and having that shared priority as a committee. I think I'm collaborative. I really listen to my heart, and I'm my decisions are grounded with a respect for the people who make up this district. So I have to say that I'm really excited to continue this journey if given the opportunity, to build strong lines of communication, really work to ensure that those things are happening, and looking for ways to strengthen how we do business here and work with the students to create a vision that supports all of our students. So that would be my opening statement.
So we have 10 total questions. We'll go down, we each been assigned one to ask for you, and we have 5 minutes to answer. We have someone keeping time.
Okay.
And so we'll let you know if we're getting near that, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
First one, what does strong school-based leadership mean to you as an administrative issue and learning strategy? What is the proper balance between school-based management, central office supervision, and school committee policymaking and oversight?
Strong school-based leadership means that principals and assistant principals should be able to have autonomy when making decisions for their students. And they need to make decisions that are aligned with the district priorities and policies. Principals know their students. Principals know their staff. They have the ability to ensure that what's happening in their building is what's best for their building. However, principals can't operate in a vacuum. They need to operate within the district of our strategic plan and our priorities. So central office, when you work with central office and school-based management, I like to think central office is a service-based provider. What can we do to support our principals? What can we do to support our students? What can we do to support what they need? Would that be professional development? Would that be resources? Would that be facilities? What can we do to support you? So that is a tiered approach. So I like to use that as a mantra. You know, even though we are all here for the same thing, we have different roles. So they're the deliverers, we are the service providers. That's kind of how I use it. I don't know if that makes sense, but so when it comes to school committee policymaking and oversight, my job is to work with you to make sure that I stay abreast of what's happening with policies and oversight. So my job is to work with our legal, MASC, places that policy developers, towns, and seeing how can I support that in the district. And then if it is a policy decision, I need to work with you to create new policy or ensure that the policy is part of our district plan. And then we work together to make sure that that me and the central office work together to institute those policies, to make sure that we follow the regulations and the policies we set forth. That could be budgeting, like we just did the Title IX policy. We have to redo that as a group, so we talk about that. How do we want to support that? And when those things come up, we make sure we review the policy and follow the structures and procedures and practice that we put in place. So really, I need to remain current, bring that information to you folks, and then we institute how that works moving forward.
Tell us about your experience working in the curriculum area that might include identifying a need to revise curriculum, implementing a new curriculum, or assisting the curricula that is already in place. What did you learn from these experiences, and how would you use what you have learned?
Okay, I'm going to use an experience I had in Athol. As the director of curriculum in that particular district, I can honestly say that it was a great experience. We had taken a look at some of our data, and we noticed that there was some gaps within the grade levels, the transition grades specifically, between grades 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, and at the grades 3 and 4. So we took a look at our curriculum. So what we did is we created a curriculum committee, and the curriculum committee got together to take a look at the data we have to find out where the deficiencies lie. And was it a matter of instruction? Was it a matter of the materials we were using? Was it the teacher? Was it his cohort of students? So we really took all that information. This was a 3-year process that we started. So it wasn't a one and done. It was a 3-year process. So there were steps. So the first year was gathering the data. And then at that point, we realized, okay, we need to take a look at the curriculum as a whole. So what we did is we asked a group of teachers to pilot specific curriculums. One did wonders. I can't think of the other one. And somebody did, I can't think. One was wonders, one was something from McGraw-Hill. So we had them each try different curriculum to see what they liked. Then in the summertime, we found some money to work with those groups of teachers to take a look at what curriculum did they like the best. And we talked about that. But the first thing we did after we got that information is let's take a look at the curriculum we're using. And we created thematic units. So the second grade teachers got to work with the third grade teachers. And the third grade teacher said, hey, looks like you guys are missing writing, or in the case of math, numeracy was an issue. So we really had those teachers work together to create thematic unions that carried through horizontally with the curriculum. So we did that, and we created a curriculum. It took all year to do this. We started in the summer, and the teachers got paid through the summer and through the year after school. And we created a K through 8 curriculum map. So we're able to do that. And then what we did is we went back to talk about, let's take a look at those curriculums that we piloted, those 2 curriculums that we piloted, and where does that fit in with what our thematic units and what it looks like. So then we went back and instituted, I believe it was Wonders back then. So one of the things we made sure that we did is let's follow this curriculum with fidelity to see what our results look like. And we did that for a while, the first year, but the second year we realized that, Wonders didn't really have a really strong component of writing. So what we did is we tweaked a little bit to continue that moment in the third year. So by the end of the third year, we had a curriculum that was aligned from grade K through grade 8, vertically aligned, and the teachers had a lot of meetings. But again, it took a lot of time working with the collective bargaining unit. We had to work with the administrative staff. We had to work with parents. We had a lot of meetings with parents to see what this is going to be like. So throughout the year, it was an ongoing process. We reported to the school committee periodically, the curriculum committee. So we really took the time to create a meaningful and robust curriculum for K through 8. And I left when we were getting to the high school curriculum at the English language arts, which I was really excited to work on, but I didn't get the opportunity with that. So I learned that things need to go slow and steady. You just can't jump at any new item. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes perseverance. People oftentimes say this is not going to work, but we have to support them. We have to continue to say, you're going to be okay. Let's try to get through this and see what we need to do to focus on making sure that we're better practitioners in making sure we get the students. So it can't be a one and done. We have to continue to follow through, continue to hold the teachers accountable, continue to go in the classrooms to offer PD and those supports. So that was one of my best experiences. I really enjoyed it. I was very proud of the work that we did during that 3-year period. It was a lot of work, but it was very rewarding.
Okay, I think you included an answer to the follow-up question, so that concludes that question.
My turn. Given the stress in the lives of young people today and the social, academic, and even financial pressures they face, how can educators in general, and the superintendent in particular, have an impact on the emotional well-being of students?
I think there's a lot of stresses on young people today, as you are correct. So it's important for the district to create the whole child approach. We focus on that here in Granby because we use PBIS, second steps, and we follow the MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of supports for our students. So the whole child approach really focuses on PBIS, which is behavior. So we talked about behavior with students on a daily basis. We track students using our Swiss data, which helps us perform interventions for the students. We're able to look at the students' data, whether behavior, academically, socially, emotionally, and take a look at that data to provide immediate interventions, long-term interventions, whether it be responding immediately. But it's really important for us to have these programs in place because if you want students to be successful, in order for them to be successful, they have to feel safe and a sense of belonging. And they can't have those sense of belonging, that safety, unless they feel that they're being supported in those other areas. So we have to make sure that we continue to focus on finding opportunities to make students have a voice, be part of the conversation, really become part of the fabric of the decision making. Even, a first grader can make a choice whether they want to walk now or I don't know, whatever they need to do. But they don't have to be ginormous decision making, but we do have to give students a choice because I think that's important for them. So really, we need to do a good job of making sure that those needs are being met, because if we want students to have academic success, they have to feel emotionally supported.
Thank you.
What do you perceive as the superintendent's role in the community?
I think the superintendent's role is multifaceted, but ultimately it's about showing a commitment to the students. I find the superintendent should be an ambassador of education. That is how I like to perceive myself. My job is to advocate for our students, but I can't do that unless I become a part of the community, be part of the fabric of the discussions that are happening at the town level, really being a steward of public resources. So what does that look like? I need to advocate for PTO or the booster club or even the town. What does that look like? I need to create a shared value with the town and the community. What do we value in education? How do we want to support our students? What is our return on investment? Ultimately, any student that stays in the Granby Public Schools will probably end up living in the area. They become community members, so we really need to put a vested interest in what we're seeing. I know an ROI is something we talk about with business and such, but I think a return on investment really would strengthen the Granby community itself. So taking a look at that, so really being visible. Right now, I've had some conversations with the Cultural Council, so really taking time to meet with the folks that are out there. I just met with the Cultural Council person last week, and we're very excited that the Cultural Council is now going to offer us some funding. They're going to give out awards at our music and our arts night that we're going to have in the spring. So they've offered to work with us and really, what can we do to be a better community? They're interested in creating a better sense of community themselves. So I've had a meeting with them. They're interested in maybe in the summer creating an opportunity for us to put something on the front lawn, a statue or some sort of artwork and bring the students on, bring in some food trucks, really trying to make the school a sense of community again. We need to bring that sense of belonging back here. So I've worked with the Granby Council on that. And it's not bringing people, it's also going out. Last week, a couple of weeks ago, I mean, I do go to some sporting events, but most of my things that I go to are outside of the district. I went to the art show. That was great, seeing the students go to the art show. I enjoyed seeing that. And things like that I attend. Board of Selectmen meetings when I need to do those things. And after school things I attend with some of the parents I see there. So I think really it's being an ambassador, a steward, and really advocating for the students as best I can. And building relationships. Working with the Chamber of Commerce is something I'm also culling right now. I've taken the opportunity to reach out to the South Hadley Chamber of Commerce to see, I'd like to get more involved with that. What can I do to help us with that area? So I worked with that. And I do have some communications with the police and fire department. I meet with the chiefs of both departments. I just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. I canceled one we had the other day. But we're looking at our emergency response. So we're looking to do some reunification for students for emergency response. So I meet with them. So I'm trying to run the gamut of meeting lots of folks, and done a lot, but there's a lot more that I can do for sure.
Thank you.
How have you built lines of communication with the various district stakeholders, such as your leadership team, the faculty, community leaders, business interests, and families? As part of your response, would you talk about how you would build a line of communication to the municipal leadership?
In many of my districts, it's not doesn't just pertain to Granby, and I oftentimes create email chains, and I'm going to use Maynard for example. I had a great relationship with our town administrator and the town in general. We had department meetings on a monthly basis, so every department in the town went to those meetings. We had the school department, the police department, the fire department, I think it was the parks department. So we were all together, met together as a group. So that's one way to have those communication chains. That's not on my end, but I'd like to be part of those conversations in some of my other districts. And then I take that information and I bring it back to my team. So that's one of the things I did. And the faculty, creating opportunities with my principals to work with them. We're very fortunate that our principals send out weekly communications. And I try to put my information in those principals' communications. If I have a special communication, I would certainly put it out on our website and our Facebook page. I have an assistant who did an incredible job recreating our website and our Facebook page. She does a nice job with those types of things and making sure that we stay up to date on that. We push out notifications are pretty good, so I'm very happy with that. Community leaders as much as, again, I reached out to the Culture Council, the Chamber of Commerce. I worked with the Senior Center and lots of places I've been to. In the town of Winchendon, I worked for the library department, and we created a program called One Book, One Community. So the community and the schools read one book, and at the end of the, I want to say 5 months, we brought in the author of the book. And so we were able to do that, to provide funding, again, actually that was the Culture Council, Library Council, and the school department. We funded together to bring the author back so the students and the families could meet with this author and discuss his book. And it was really a great way to see the generational intertwining of reading the same book. So a different perspective was very, very interesting. I was really happy to see that. So really trying to find interest that everybody's interested in doing. Business interests are extraordinarily important. Haven't done as much in this district, but in some of my past districts, I brought businesses into some of our job fairs and career fairs, especially when I worked at Pathfinder. We had the opportunity to bring lots of businesses in to talk about what jobs look like, and I'd like to do some of that here. In Granby, I had some conversations with our guidance director about how can we bring more businesses in here and what can we do to showcase what their opportunities are out there for students. So that is something that I'm interested in. And families, trying to put out as much news information as I can, trying to be as proactive as I can. And you do that through newsletters, via email. One of the things I've tasked my principals to the end of this year and next year is I'd like to see us put more things into the Sentinel and the Daily Hampshire Gazette. So each month, there's going to be a principal tasked with, and I've done this in some of my other districts, each principal will be tasked with putting some kind of article or some highlighting at the school. I actually did that I did that in Maynard, and we each had something, every month we had something in there so we could showcase the school. And that's another way for us to be part of the conversation. So media is very important. So I think social media as well. So those are some ways that I would definitely talk about that. And one of the things I'm looking to do is create a communication plan, and I'll answer the last part of this in a second. I am working on right now a communication plan that incorporates all that information, and I hope to present it during my evaluation at the end of the year so that you can see what that communication plan looks like moving forward and good, bad, or different it will be yours to use. So I really important to use that. Now, creating a communication plan with the municipal leadership is something that I'd like to do. We have a pretty good relationship right now. They've been very generous with us this year, so I'm very grateful that they were able to do that. But I think really taking the opportunity to get more involved and be part of the conversations at these meetings is something that I definitely would see myself doing. Sure.
Thank you.
What experiences have you had implementing reorganizations or change in organization? How did you do this? What were the challenges and regrets?
Well, that's a big question. Well, I've been involved in several reorganizations. I'm just trying to pick one that I think would. One of the things I'd like to talk about is early on, maybe halfway through my career when I was an administrator, we realized that our district was not Mass 4 compliant, which meant you'd have 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of language arts, and so on, and so forth. So in order for us to do that, we had to restructure the schedule. And that included, at that time, the district I was working with had the schedule actually into their contract. So we had to negotiate what would that look like with our collective bargaining unit. So it impacted the prep time, it impacted the lunchtime, it impacted lots of things, impacted time, what the classrooms look like. It became long block teaching, so it impacted professional development, had lots of impacts. So one of the things we had to do was really take the time and communicate. So that was a big undertaking, and it took us, again, all year to do that. And the organization was not easy. It at time it was a little bit, I want to say, that's what I'm looking for. It was fearful for it was a lot of unknowns on everybody's end. So we didn't know how it was going to turn out, but we did know that we had to become Mass Core compliant. So some of the challenges I had, I think we probably could have had a lot more meetings and put a lot more input. We did have groups putting together different types of schedules. So we had, 5 different schedules. We said at staff meetings, okay, this is the schedule, how this is going to look. Let's take some vote. But I think I probably did it too holistically. I think I could have honed in on a couple more things instead of showing everything at the same time. I probably should have just sat with our committee and said, okay, let's present just these 2 instead of all 5. But that was early on in my career, and those are some things. And I also, one of my biggest regrets, and I think actually, that's probably the next question. I'll answer that one. So I think really taking that, and another reorganization I had, I was actually part of a district that was looking to regionalize. I was part of that district and part of that conversation. So because we finished our feasibility study, we were now looking for a partner. One of the things that we had in the organization was trying to create opportunities so we can meet with these other districts to see, what we could offer each other. And although it wasn't my role to do that, it was the other folks part of the conversation. I think if I had taken more time to create some of these shared services early on, we probably would have been able to connect with a district differently. For example, bringing in PT and OT, we could have shared services. And we ended up doing that at one point. And I didn't stay at the district to find out what the organization. We shared a special ed director at that time, and it was really kind of a way to do things. But we weren't able to actually regionalize because there were other challenges. And I think my challenge is I didn't stay in that district, and I would have liked to see the whole regionalization come to fruition. I think it because I didn't stay, I think some of the issues became non-existent, so I do regret that. I would have liked to seen that through, for sure.
Caught me writing my notes. Please describe a decision. Well, this almost ties in, so you could keep talking about that. Please describe a decision you made in retrospect you wish you had made differently. How did you come to understand that the decision needed another look? What process did you follow and why? What would you do differently and why? What did you learn from the process or experience? You don't have to ask all the whys because you were on a roll there, so keep it going.
Well, you know what? I could have rolled both those questions in because they kind of go with each other.
They do.
Because this really resonated with me, and I think this is how I became who I am right now. Much more thoughtful practitioner, and I think that I blame myself for this decision I'm going to tell you about. I mean, it's nothing monumental, but I just think it's something I should have certainly done a better job with. In the same district that we were doing the Mass Core with, when we came to the conclusion that we needed to start using Mass Core and change our schedule, one of the things we wanted to talk about was UBD, Universal Backwards Design, and creating structures for that. So in my infinite wisdom, because we had this ready to go, I thought everybody just knew that now we're going to start doing UBD. So I brought in this is probably the most embarrassing moment of my life. I brought in a guest speaker and a person who can present on UBD. My staff gave this woman such a hard time. The woman started to cry in the middle of the PD. And that was completely, totally my fault because I did mention it to the staff, but I didn't really roll it out like I should have. And literally that was my very first year as a principal. So I learned from that lesson tremendously. I had a great relationship with my staff. After that, I learned. I started meeting with the union pretty regularly. And we talked about rolling, and eventually we did get there. But I certainly did not roll it out like I should have. I did not, as I said, when I did the experience with my curriculum, I think that was a lot better because that was a few more years into my educational career. But I will never forget that day. That poor woman said she would never come back to this district again. And I was horrified. And my people were great. So I really struggled with that. And I don't blame them one bit. I blame myself. It was what I did. And they were fabulous people, and they would do anything in the world that you want to know. But I think the way the presenter did not come in such a way that you guys are doing a good job. She came in gung-ho, you guys are doing a terrible job. This is what we have to do. And I don't think it was the right presenter. So having those discussions early on really, it was very problematic. And I would definitely do it differently because I need to communicate better. I'm really cognizant when I bring in presenters now, and I oftentimes try to bring people in who are already here because people don't know the people you're bringing in when it comes to your staff doesn't know who you're bringing in. And I know when I sit in meetings, something like, who is this person? Why is a 10-year-old telling me how to do something? Because oftentimes they're very young, they know what's happening. And I think it was some of that. You know, when you get pulled over by the police and the policemen are like 9, oh my God. So, do you know what I'm talking about? So anyway, I think that, I went off topic. But I think really we have to do a better job when you bring presenters in. Make sure the person has the cachet to present that to the staff. You just can't bring somebody in and make sure they have the knowledge. You just can't. So I think that was something that I've learned as well. And I've definitely I've evolved from there for sure. And I did it because I wanted our school to be the best. And I know that we were already using Mass Core. We had long block. This is a great way for you guys to start using long block a little bit. And what's really funny is some of the teachers were already using it and some were not. So I probably should have targeted certain people. So that became, and I definitely learned that, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. They didn't hold it against me. We had a great relationship. They really, truly didn't hold it against me. So I was really grateful that the staff was really good about that.
Introducing UBD to a veteran staff is never going to be easy.
Listen, I was new. I thought I knew everything. I know it's not, but you know, I didn't know. Live and,
Now you know.
live and learn. I wouldn't do that today. Not kidding.
Hindsight's 100%, 2020, right?
But it obviously it resonated with me because it happened probably 15 years ago, and it's still, I can still remember that poor lady running out the door. I'm like, oh my God. And I never contacted that company again, ever.
How would you work with local municipal officials to generate support and trust for the schools?
Well, I'm going to go with, kind of like the same thing on budget. So I'm going to go with this one for as how I create a budget and working with local municipal officials. Ideally, in many of the districts I've worked at, I've worked with a lot of municipalities. We start our budget process in, say, November, and really start working with our principals to see, what does your wish look like? And then we look at our data, what do we need? What are our haves? What are our must-haves? What are our dreams? What is our vision? So those are things we started on our end. And then, I worked with some of the department heads, and we met in some of the other districts. I know there's a lot of transition in Granby right now, so I'm using some of my other references from my other districts. So we get together and we talk to all the departments, and they say, hey, this is what our revenue looks like for next year. The tax base looks like this. We're not seeing the growth we're looking for. Perhaps you guys, when it comes to looking at your budget, you can keep this in mind moving forward. And that's kind of how we've operated in the past. So whether it be 2%, 3%, or 1%, whatever it may be, how can you make that budget work? So then I go back to the drawing board with my business manager or my whoever is working on it at the time, and I say, hey, this is what the revenue looks like for the town. Or regionals are a little different. Sometimes you can get different numbers from different towns, so you have to find a kind of a common area. So with municipalities, it's a little different because there's not, again, revenue and growth is not always equal. So trying to work with them to generate support, really, we need to work together. I want to support our students, again, talking about a return on investment, but we have to be cognizant of our resources. I mean, we have to be cognizant of of the town's resources. We can't just ask for unlimited funding. So really trying to have those conversations early and often. And they also, need to have conversations with us. None of us work in silos. I know that when I was in another district, we were talking to the police department, they needed this, but the highway department needed this. So there was a little bit of give and take departmentally wise. School department was also included in that. So they say, because we're always the biggest part of the budget. In any district, the schools are always probably 54% over what everything else should be. So school spending is always more, always has been. So, we always have to give and take as well. So really having those conversations and generating trust that you're not going to, overburden the town, because they're taxpayers, we want to make sure that the students are getting the most, but we also know that we're not rich. We don't have unlimited funding to support everybody. So how can we create a dynamic that everybody's feeling respected? And ultimately there probably will be cuts but we have to, last year, say the fire department didn't get the fire truck, the police department got this, school wanted this, we couldn't do that. So we had to make a lot of different changes. So really having those conversations and working together as a company, as a corporation, really we have to see what it looks like. So again, we're having those discussions in November, December, and going back to the drawing board with the admin team and say, hey, this is what it looks like next year. Let's kind of pare down what we need to do, and start rolling it out in January, February. And then, so when the town meeting comes, everybody's getting what they want without a lot of arguments, because you've already built trust with each other. And really having those conversations. You can't have them in isolation. They have to be together as a group. And we're always going to advocate for each other, all public servants. And unfortunately, we're all fighting for unlimited, with limited funds, and trying to create opportunities for all of us. We want to make sure public safety is taken care of and our roads are taken care of. We want to make sure our kids are being taken care of. So, and I know that it's gonna be hard in the next few years. And so creating those opportunities for us to trust each other, keep the lines of communication open, and really working hard to make sure that, we are streamlining the best we can on all avenues, for sure.
How you doing? Okay?
Okay.
All right.
My head is getting one more thing.
Tell me about a meeting in which you had to tell others something they did not want to hear. How did you communicate those ideas to them? What was the result of that communication? If you could do it again, Is there anything that you would change in the way you communicated or the way in which you communicated it, and why?
This actually is about, I had to let the principal go. It was a very uncomfortable conversation, because there had to be an investigation. And, at first you're always saying, these things, we have to, somebody's accusing you of something, we have to do our due diligence. I'm going to, put you out on admin leave until we investigate the whole situation. So I've had a few conversations like this, and these are extraordinarily uncomfortable because you really are here to support your staff, but ultimately we're here to protect the students. So you have to keep that in mind. Again, my core value is protecting the students. Every student that I've come across in my 35 years of teaching is my kid. Every kid that I come across is mine. So when I do these types of investigations, do I want this person in my child's life? No, that's how I make my decisions. So even though the conversations are difficult, I have no problem doing what I have to do. Because when push comes to shove, these are my babies and you gotta stay out of my way. So it was really hard because I actually told my school committee because I knew that it was going to impact the community when this happened. So this is one way that I did include my school committee in the conversation, because ultimately they're going to say, I'm going to be like Frankenstein, and the stakes are going to come out and they're going to be charging at me because this is a beloved member of the community, been a principal for a very long time. How is it going to impact everybody else? It had to be done. I explained the situation, and we had to just keep those lines of communication open. So the result was I did have some very difficult conversations with some staff members. I had some conversations from staff members who were extraordinarily happy, that this should have happened a long time ago. I had some nasty parent phone calls. I had some nasty parent forum emails. I had some, but ultimately, there's very few of them. I had a lot more positive impact, and people saying that was a very courageous thing for you to do. And it was not an easy thing to do because I knew that it was going to cause some anxiety, because we left the building without a strong leader. Because when push comes to shove, that person had a building that was under control, and I was a little worried that after that person left, I didn't want anarchy raining down on the school, but it did not. So it worked out well. So I let the school committee know that you're going to hear this backlash. I just need to let you know, and this is what I need to do. And they were very supportive, and they said, you know what you have to do, and you've done your due diligence, and we will definitely support you. So that was, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't change anything. The way I communicated it, and I left it really as professional as I possibly could. We didn't give out details because, again, we have to protect our folks, whether they work here or not. That is anybody's business. So, and again, that's one of the hardest things I do. But I also have difficult conversations with staff members, or even principals about what your evaluations look like. Listen, we need some support. I'm going to put you on an action plan or a self-directed plan and get you the mentoring you need to support. So those are also difficult conversations. I've also had to let people go after 90 days because they just weren't working out. So these are some difficult conversations. Listen, in all of our lives, we have difficult conversations. They're not easy. But if you can keep at the core why you're having these conversations, and because it's in the best interest of the district and the students, then you have to keep those in your mind. And I don't think I would change the way that I communicate, because I do think, with the exception of that particular instance, I am a pretty decent communicator when it comes to telling people what I expect from them as far as what's happening in their classrooms, what my expectations are. I rarely want to give anybody a gotcha. I never want to let a teacher go. I want to help that teacher be a better practitioner, and I work with my principals to make that happen. As a principal, I worked with that to happen. In extreme circumstances, I'm getting rid of people, but for the most part, that is not my role. Teachers are a valuable asset. People like to be teaching, and I want to support them as much as I can. Sometimes, as an assistant principal, difficult conversation with parents. Sometimes parents don't want to believe what their kids did. So those are really hard, difficult conversations. So-and-so did this, and, my child wouldn't. And, sometimes, well, I'm sorry that you don't feel that way, but, these are the evidence we have. So really having difficult conversations is part of our life, every day. So, and people really sometimes don't want to hear that they're not doing things great. Even when it comes to like construction and when I talked about earlier, when having those conversations in Athol about, what your instructional practice look like, people don't want to hear that they could use a little support there. But in the end, show them the evidence and the data, you should be okay, and just be professional and don't overshare, for sure. Something you don't want to do.
All right, last question.
Sure.
How would you describe your leadership style? What particular strengths do you believe you'll bring to our school system?
I think I'm collaborative. I'm a relationship-driven person. I think that's important. I like to focus on improvement, but I like to think of myself as someone who has the ability to bring out the best in people, to make people want to be better. So I like to think that building that relationship is what I think. I'm really all for developing talent within. What can we do? If I know that somebody is struggling, I will oftentimes look for mentors for them. I think it's really important that we have a group of folks who are committed to being here or wherever we are, and I want to make sure that they're feeling heard and valued. So I like to be a strategic thinker with some long-term goals, but I also need to make sure we have immediate needs that are being met. So, I have the ability to, I think I have the ability to let people know that what I'm saying, I'm being genuine. I want to be trustworthy. I try to be honest. I know that I have integrity, and I'm proud of that. So oftentimes when I make a decision is based on that, and I will not compromise my morals in any way for anybody. And, sometimes it can be challenging because people may not agree with you. But in the end, if it's, something that I need to do, I'm definitely going to do it. But for the most part, I think I'm collaborative. I like to build relationships, establish trust, establish collegiality. I do think that is one of my strengths. And I use this because I know that people are going to make mistakes. And I know that people are people. I make mistakes every day of my life. And we learn from these mistakes. And I will never hold it against you, unless it's egregious. But for the most part, we're all here for the same thing. And one of the things that attracted me to this district, and I said when I first got here, is we're going to make mistakes. And if we make mistakes, it's okay. But if they're in the best interest of the students, it's perfectly fine, as long as nobody gets hurt. So I do think that I try to be transparent, focused, and I do what's best for students. Really, I'm student-driven. That is my why. Why am I here? Because I want to create a generation of kids and students who are thinkers, innovative, and have the ability to think. I don't want kids to leave here with a bad taste in their mouth. I just want to be collaborative and helpful and creating better worlds for people. I know that's nirvana, but that's what I'm looking for. So I think my leadership style lends itself to that. I really try to be thoughtful and empathetic. Even though I lead with my head, my heart is oftentimes there. So I try to keep both of those together. And we meet in the middle. And that's my leadership style.
Anything that you'd like to add for a closing statement?
I just want to say it's really been a pleasure working in this district for the last 8 months. I really enjoy it. And I can honestly say that this is one of the few districts that I get home and say anything negative about. Honestly, I truly, I do not. I really enjoy being here. The staff is so dedicated and they just do so many things. They wear so many hats. And the individual instruction the students get, the mentoring that they do with the students, and the communication they have with them well after they graduate, I find is incredibly rare. And I think that people who are here are genuinely happy. And I'm genuinely happy here. And I think that our staff stays here, not for the money for sure. They stay here because they enjoy being here. And I have to say, I know that if given the opportunity, I will continue to foster that culture of empathy and understanding and collaboration and in a solutions-based district, because we're definitely going to have a lot of budgetary constraints in the future, but if we can come up with solutions ahead of time, that'll be helpful for us. So that's who I am. And I appreciate the time that y'all gave me today.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. You're making the decision today?
That's our
Next
plan.
couple-
Well, once we conclude here,
Mhm.
we're going to take a short recess, let everyone stretch, and then we'll begin our deliberations. And
Okay.
our hope is that we'll be able to reach a decision tonight.
Okay.
And we have your number,
I
so
think you do.
we'll be reaching out one way or the other tonight. And if we don't make a decision, I'll let you know that as well.
Well, I appreciate the time and thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so it is 8:34. If we come back, I don't know, do you think 5 minutes is enough?
Yeah.
And then we can begin deliberations. Yeah?
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay, so now I just want to thank both candidates for coming in, and we will now begin our deliberations. So I'm not sure exactly how you all want to do this. I do have some feedback envelopes from the candidates, from the visits. So I have an envelope from East Meadow, the district leadership team, and the high school. So just so one anonymous feedback says Dr. Menard only talked about her time as a principal. That tells me she doesn't have enough experience as a superintendent. I recently learned that her association did a vote of no confidence on her.
That's, I just want to say, if you don't mind me saying that, that's a strategy with, listen, I'm a union person. I believe in unions. I love unions, but I think that the no confidence vote is highly overused these days.
Duly noted. This one says Mary Jane has been a great interim. She has been very visible, has had has had hard but good conversations with the association. She is, I'm going to assume that is transparent. She is very transparent, not transportation. And I would like to continue working with her. On Dr. Menard, concerns regarding her actual superintendent experience, all examples of what she did from when she was a principal. Not sure she has a realistic expectation for what she can do as a super in a small district. Keeps saying she was in a small district but has 9 curriculum people under her. For Mary Jane, has done a good job as interim, is willing to listen to our ideas and concerns, has good ideas regarding curriculum needs, and has understanding of what we need. Too many changes in Granby already. Better to keep some consistency. Would support bringing her on as a super so that we can start moving forward as a district. Mary Jane has a plan, is familiar with Granby, knows she isn't perfect, and wants everyone to do their best for the kids. Fits right into the group with the teachers, relatable, has a plan. Dr. Menard has good ideas but didn't share a game plan. This one says Dr. Menard was friendly but has a vote of no confidence from past position, as Liz already mentioned. Also didn't talk about any experience as a superintendent. Mary Jane is committed to our district and has a personality that's kind and approachable while setting structure and vision for where she wants us to go. Dr. Menard, business to teacher, has a community focus, collaboration, thinking outside the box, talked a lot about herself, does not seem consistent, lots of jobs. MJ has a plan, familiar with students and staff, very comfortable and confident, professional, meaningful development. Good Lord. PD for Paris, I guess? Yeah, PD for Paris, schedule, curriculum for science and social studies, transparency, collaboration with staff. Granby has been through a lot of changes over the years. I think maintaining consistency in the district will be important, and Mary Jane will be able to build on things. I'm worried Dr. Menard hasn't had enough superintendent experience, and Granby needs a more experienced leader in the district. That's from the East Meadow envelope. This is from the high school envelope. Dr. Menard, experience in the classroom and admin are positives. Being curriculum super, how would that translate? Seems open to working collaboratively. Dr. Menard, I enjoyed her. She presented very well. Good ideas, new ideas. I would hire her. Dr. Menard, impressive. Superintendent roundtables. Listening
tour.
Okay. Supporting staff, bringing down angst and also having fun. PD tracks, specific PD for special ed teachers, paras, and content teachers, has an entry plan, professional demeanor, and down to earth. Dr. Menard liked incorporating local businesses, bringing in community members. Dr. Menard seemed professional and qualified. MJ has some good ideas now that she has been here for a while and sees what we need. Mary Jane, clearer understanding of what changes are needed and has had a year to understand and evaluate. Something about the strategic plan. Evaluate current strategic plan. Has made connections across the district. Has an understanding of needs in the district. Dr. Menard loved the focus on collaborative leadership and attending and participating in the community, student voice focus and how to build school cultures. Think the direction of leadership could focus more on communication. MJ, good sense of the business side of things, would be a good resource if regionalization were to occur. Goal, keep the elementary kids in 7th. A-okay with dual enrollment because the kids stay here in Granby. Art's been looking into grants for those types of things. And this one is from the leadership team. Mary Jane has been responsive and supportive this year. I'd go Mary Jane. Dr. Menard, I worked with her as an admin in Gil Montague. Significant issues with her and the new superintendent. She was somewhat unprofessional and
Vindictive? Undecisive?
I'm not sure what those first 3 letters are.
good Lord, if their students wrote like this, we would be having problems. Would not hire her. I foresee issues. Dr. Menard spoke a lot about herself to the point we as a leadership could not ask questions. She spoke in circles, no questions for us, no real interest in the district. Very scripted interview. Mary Jane, current interim super has kept us afloat. No significant changes this year. Easy to work and talk to. Communication could be improved. Visibility could be improved. Mary Jane, current interim, pros, cons, 1 or 3 year. Mary Jane Rickson is the right choice. Mary Jane has worked well collaborating with admin team this past year. She has effectively motivated the team through welcoming environment. I feel comfortable working with her and feel she will provide the stability Granby needs. MJ would be my recommendation. Dr. Menard has an impressive background and a lot of experience. During your interview with DLT, she did not entertain questions, but used most of the time for her narrative. Some members later stated that they were concerned about this. Mary Jane has the knowledge of the district, knows what she needs to do to improve. Dr. Menard, too wordy, found her exhausting. She did not want to know about us. Find it concerning. Do not want her. Keep Mary Jane. Dr. Menard is not a good fit for the DLT. Hard no on Dr. Menard. Dr. Menard, concerns about professional experience and relationships from prior districts, very formulaic, scripted interview, gave little detail, didn't allow for input. Mary Jane, improvement in communication needed, follow through on plans. She listens and takes into account people and their opinions. Wow, that's quite a lot. I'll leave these here if there's anybody wants to refer back to any of those. So, we have our templates. We also have the applications for both, and Ginny had gone through Todd had gone through and compiled information from the reference checks. So we have 2 references for both. If you guys want to take a minute and review that, or if you want to go, it's your call. However you would like to proceed. Does anyone have any thoughts on how they would like to proceed?
I read the materials, but I don't want to deprive my colleagues of the opportunity to go over them if they have not done so yet.
I just want to refresh my. It's cold in here. I'm just gonna say that. I'm freezing.
It's really trying to turn off the fan, because sometimes it can get difficult.
Yeah.
But
Or maybe I just haven't warmed up from the game yet.
it's in the spring.
Have you guys had a chance to go through?
Yes, yes.
So I'm not really sure. I don't want to drive the conversation unnecessarily. So do you want to talk about them one at a time? Do we want to go through and compare and contrast? I mean, how are you all comfortable with proceeding?
Before we dive into it, I just want to say that I'm very impressed with every candidate that's come in here that I've had the opportunity to view. Interviewing like that in front of the panel, in front of the public, is a difficult thing, and I haven't seen a bad candidate come through the door since I've been here. So hats off to both of them tonight for solid performances.
For sure. George?
Much of the same. I haven't been able to be too involved with the process up until now, just to scheduling and things like that. It's definitely not necessarily a simple or easy choice, looking over even just these 2 candidates. So.
Liz?
So I guess if the question is, how would you like to proceed? I think we should each maybe just take a stab at what we thought about each candidate.
Sure.
To listen to one another's perspectives. I do value the perspectives you all, because, well, you all know Granby a lot better than I do.
But that being said, it's good to have a fresh
And I do
perspective.
have some perspective that I'm certainly willing to share.
Sometimes having a steep understanding, having fresh eyes is better.
Yeah.
So who should go first?
Oh, great. I'll go first. Well, thank you. I guess I would talk about our interim superintendent first. I think that Miss Rickson has been looking for a home. I think she's done the interim gig a few times. And I think, if I may be perfectly blunt, which I sometimes tend to be, each time has been beaten out by a male candidate, which we see a lot, right, Jen? We know the drill. I am absolutely behind her student-driven attitude. I think that she realizes there's always room for growth and improvement, right? Those are opportunities. I have heard, in my limited experience here, that communication and visibility could be improved, and we heard that again tonight. And I will also say that it's very difficult to be an interim superintendent when you know your expectation is to come in and keep things on sort of where they are.
And we made that very clear too.
Correct.
Wow, it's getting to that point. And then
It is.
But when we asked her to join us as the interim, we kind of said that we weren't looking for any, just kind of steer the ship is what we wanted. We didn't want any, so it's hard to hold someone accountable for doing exactly,
What
in a
you
negative
asked them
way,
to do.
exactly what we asked them to do.
That's my point.
And then the other thing that I've heard, which goes along with what you've said, is being an interim is like a year-long job interview.
Yes.
And so it's, it can be a double-edged sword, I think, because you're looking to evaluate them and compare them to someone that comes in fresh for a district. But we've also asked this person to be, drive the ship, so.
I feel quite blessed that I've had the opportunity to see this done so many times by so many other committees. And I guess just to go back to Mary Jane, what I heard from her was, she answered quickly, which is really her style. But she did talk about, in all the cases, particularly about, tell us about an experience working in an area of curriculum. Well, the first thing you do is look at the data to identify the gaps. And you typically do that with your administrative team if you're lucky to have one that big. Maybe Athbal did. They might have had enough people to do that. But then the next step is, of course, to put together a committee of a curriculum committee, teachers who are going to be, who are working with children to look at that data, to decide at sort of the programs they want to look at. And again, then, once you've done all that, I was impressed that she said that once they had done all that work and looked at 3 different curriculums and had an idea of, I think she was getting at 2 that they thought they liked, that the teams then went back and created thematic units and ultimately had a K-8 curriculum map. Before deciding, what do we need to spend on material, right? You pull apart the data, you look at where the gaps are, you look at what you have and what's missing. Not that I'm an educator or ever would want to be one, but that is a perfect process to follow. And when I look at Ms. Menard, is it Dr. Menard? Dr. Menard's answer, I found it light without real examples. I heard her say that, the whole notion of having curriculum people that worked underneath her, she said that twice, which resonated with me.
Yeah, it's interesting that came up in the feedback from one of the schools as well.
And Ms. Rickson talks about putting together teams, which I think is always the way you go about the work, because these buildings are filled with professional educators, right? Nobody has all the right ideas. I loved her talking about giving the students a voice to ensure that they felt part of the fabric of the school community. To me, and I say this to everybody I have a chance to meet, who wonders why I took on a school committee, since school committee is all I do. This is where the magic happens in schools. I have a great respect for teachers and people who do this for a living. I think that from what I heard from the 2 candidates tonight, if you can judge a person on 1 hour, I heard one candidate who clearly said folks would be involved in decision-making And it would always be a collaborative approach until the line came where a decision had to be made, right? I didn't hear a lot of that. I did make notes that the answers were light, even though they took up the full amount of time. They were light in terms of content and what I really wanted to hear. And I absolutely did not hear enough about students,
I was just going to say that.
which is why we're here, all of us. The teachers aren't here for the money or the glory. Neither is the superintendent, really. We're here for the kids and to create a place that they believe is theirs, and to arm them. I don't know if that's the right word, to prepare them, See, I raised girls, so I wanted to arm them as young women who were able to go out into the world and really understand that they had a place and they could speak for themselves. I heard that come through loud and clear with Ms. Rickson. And I was not happy that I didn't hear it from Dr. Menard. I think that's just critically important. And if you're interviewing for this kind of a position and you don't put students first. The other thing I would just note, and it just tends to be a personal point for me whenever I do this and I go through lots of these packets, none of the references are current.
For which?
Dr. Menard, if you want to be a superintendent of schools and you're, putting your best foot forward, have some current references.
Thank you. George?
Well, it's going to be hard to follow. Oh, that one, but she's fine.
Sorry. I told you I had the advantage of seeing it done a lot.
Which makes it easier for me because I'm not a big talker anyway. But yeah, something felt, I don't know, I couldn't figure out how to word it, but as you spoke, it made made it more clear in my own notes as far as like the focus on the students and more of the collaborative working aspect with for Mary Jane or Miss Rickson. And so, yeah, I mean, she just clarified everything I was trying to process. Reading through my notes and things like that. So I don't really think I have anything constructive to add to Liz's statement.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Very well put.
Mike?
Yeah. All right. I think they were both solid performers. I think that Mary Jane directly stated that she leads through her heart. I think Dr. Menard is more of a cognitive-based leader. It's very clear from the way that she was sitting and her posture and the way that she presented herself that I found her to be a very confident and charismatic individual, very professional, and she very clearly prepared thoroughly for this interview. She's been watching our meetings. The handout that she developed and passed out to all of us was pretty clever and had a lot of current pictures that were not on our website. So very clearly she went out there and took those pictures. Some of the better things I liked in her interview, I think having a varied background can be beneficial in terms of bringing new approaches or better techniques to an industry that might not particularly have that idea set. So the fact that she came from, BFI and fundraising and business world, and then was inspired to jump and do a second career was impressive. Let me see. I agree with a lot of the stuff Liz said. Her answers lacked a little bit of depth and a little bit of specificity. And, every leader has regrets. And to directly state that you have no regrets is worrisome. Things that I have made decisions on still resonate with me years later. And if I was directly asked, it would be burning a hole through my heart currently today. So that was a little worrisome. That being said, clearly intelligent, clearly well prepared, professional, and a good option. That being said, scored second on my rubric to Mary Jane. Sorry, I'm trying to put my thoughts together.
You're doing great.
The heart-based leadership, it really, after working with her for 8 months, it's true. She wears it on her sleeve. There's no subversion whatsoever. What's on her mind is directly stated, and it came through here in the interview. Had a real good understanding of the principals, assistant principals, having the operational control over each of the buildings and the central office, doing the planning and strategic oversight and political aspect and budgeting like that. Had a lot of specific answers involving not only this district, but her time in multiple other districts. Liked her quote on Ambassador of Education. Thoughts on school providing an ROI and making the school the anchor of the community again. They're all, it's very clear from the answers that she has a lot of things teed up in her mind to do, but is holding close until given the authority to take those leaps, because right now she is interim. Let me see, what else did I like? The mass core compliance, the admission of mistakes, really showed that she's a humble person, and I see my notes here, humble and introspective, and then learns from her mistakes, implementation of procedures to eliminate making mistakes twice. And then there were a couple statements that she made that displayed loyalty as a key value to her as a person, which resonated with me. 1 second. Almost through.
You're doing great.
I know it's late. I know everybody wants to get through it, but I just want to get my thoughts out. Had an excellent understanding of the budget cycle. Yep, excellent answer to the riff of that particular employee in the past, and you can see that it really still affected her personally to do those things. But the would I let my child be exposed to this really resonated with me. And like Liz said, that's why we're all here, is for the kids. That's why I'm here, although everybody here is pretty fun to work with. But I just want to make sure that our kids have the best, and that is something that can't be faked, and was on display tonight. So in my opinion, I think Mary Jane is the candidate that I'd like to go with for those reasons.
So, Dr. Menard, I agree, very well prepared. But one of the things that I found is that her answers were lengthy and verbose even, and I found myself drifting. Like I would lose a thread. So I found that I took a lot less notes, even though she had a lot more words. And Mary Jane I felt like I was able to connect with what she was saying. And I will own it. Part of that might be from working with her for 8 months, that I understand her cadence of speech and her mannerisms and things. But I just felt like I was able to connect and stay with her a little bit better personally. I never felt like Dr. Menard. Yes, she went to a softball game this afternoon. Yes, she says she's watched some select board meetings, but it never felt like any of her answers were directly relatable to Granby. I didn't hear her talking about, we asked pointed questions like, how would you work through with municipal leaders? And I felt like that was, as someone new coming into a district, making mention, Mary Jane did as well, like, there's transition here and I would like to try to, I would be new and that. I was very impressed with her entry plan. I think that takes a lot of time. It was nice to see. She did have some things where I was like, oh, that's an interesting point. Maybe we could consider doing that, like the posting the newsletters on the town website. That's a great idea. It's not something I had come up with myself. We have newsletters that come out of both schools. There's no reason we couldn't hyperlink them to the town website. So I appreciated that information. I thought Mary Jane killed it today, really. I was super impressed. I thought she actually interviewed better tonight than she did, I feel, than when she was interviewing for interim. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Liz, that she's looking for a home, and I feel like she's making connections. And I, like everyone has said, I really loved how she kept bringing it back to the students. She wants to be a steward of the schools, advocate for the students. The ROI for the town of Granby is amazing. And I like how she owned her mistakes in the past, kind of bouncing around, but was lighthearted about it and kind of joked with us a little bit, made us all sort of giggle, like lighthearted, owning the mistakes, acknowledging the mistakes, knows that it happened, it's part of who she is and how she's become, but hasn't forgotten them.
Right.
So, I agree with Mike. I think Mary Jane did a really good job tonight, and she would be my choice at this point.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't also add that in her closing statements, she talked about how she enjoyed being here and how dedicated the staff is, and how through the instruction and communication and interactions with students is genuine.
Mm-hmm.
She felt that to be rare.
So, at this point, it feels, are we ready to vote or to say who we think, or any additional discussion? Where are we all at?
Do you want a motion, or do you want to just go down the line?
I think for this, we'll go down the line and see if we're split in any way, or if we have consensus, and then if we have consensus, then we can go for motion. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yes.
It's for me.
Do you want to go through? Do you mind doing like a roll call and just kind of going down the line, please?
Absolutely. Ms. Dupont,
Mary Jane Rickson.
Mr. Buffy,
Mary Jane Rickson.
Mr. Durham,
Mary Jane Rickson.
Ms. Parks.
Mary Jane Rickson. All right, I will take the motion.
So I would make a motion that we appoint or offer the position of Superintendent of Schools to Mary Jane Rickson, Superintendent of the Granby Public Schools, to Mary Jane Rickson, pending successful contract negotiations.
Second.
All those in favor? Ginny, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Ms. LaFawn,
Yes.
Mr. Buffy,
Yes.
Mr. Durham,
Aye.
and Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye. All right, so I guess I need to call, do I call Mary Jane first, or do I call Dr. Menard first?
Mary Jane.
Okey-dokey.
See if she's willing to accept.
Thank you. I don't want to get it wrong.
It is an executive session.
Executive session, maybe?
I thought I had to, I have to call
No,
him.
you can I make a motion to take a brief recess so the chair can reach out to Mary Jane Rickson.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okey-doke. Okay, so we have successfully reached out to Mary Jane Rickson and offered her the position of the Superintendent of Granby Public Schools pending successful negotiations, which we will begin. And so now we're going to vote to go into executive session. under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The committee will not return to open session. Ginny?
Ms. LaFawn?
Am I going to make that motion?
No, we just vote to go in. I just read.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll get used to it. And that non-union personnel, just because we should say this, is the superintendent, right?
Yes. It's for just to discuss that.
Great. Yes. Thank you.
Ms. LaFawn?
Yes.
Mr. Balky?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
And Ms. Barford?
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.